We're very excited about blockchain here in the region. I think the market is now entering a new stage of maturity. So we spent a lot of time in the last few days talking to clients in the region about what they've done so far, what they're looking for in the future. And what we see is a much more sophisticated understanding of what's likely to work, what business cases will create value, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector, and a lot more readiness to embrace some of the technical challenges of blockchain in exchange for some of the most proven and valuable use cases. So the region here seems to be relatively mature from a technical standpoint. So one of the key things that we're looking for in an enterprise environment is, do you have enough digital infrastructure so that you can manage your external relationships? Blockchains are really about entities being able to connect with other businesses. And so if you don't have any digital data, then you're not going to have a good chance of successfully interconnecting digitally with other companies. In that respect, I think the region is relatively mature, whether it's logistics companies in Saudi Arabia or the government in the UAE. They have a lot of digital data. It may not be fully connected up, but it is quite digital. From a regulatory perspective, the rules seem to be quite reasonable in terms of defining what's required, how you think about KYC or AML, what kind of requirements you need to put in place. And I think we're increasingly comfortable that we can serve clients here on public blockchains doing complex business transactions and both meet their privacy and data sovereignty requirements as well as enable integration. The sectors that are most likely to be successful with blockchain and get the most value out of it are the ones that have very complex multi-party business relationships. So if you think about something like oil and gas, 30 or 40 years ago, oil and gas companies did everything themselves. They built everything, they managed everything, they had large staffs. Today, it's more likely that an oil and gas company is actually a collection of joint ventures and subcontractors and business partners. And over the last 30 years, companies have spent a huge amount of time and effort building things like ERP system, enterprise resource planning, which allows them to manage themselves internally. But they haven't had an equivalent solution for managing all of their business partners and their external relationships. Blockchain is that solution. It allows you to have shared facts, shared business process and rules across multiple parties with full privacy in a global network. And so I believe that oil and gas is one of the best candidates for this, as well as a lot of import-export industries, global trade and logistics, areas where there are many, many companies in a single value chain. Those are the places where you're going to see the biggest payoff from implementing blockchain technologies. If you think about some of the different diversification sectors you mentioned, like manufacturing, tourism, and logistics, I think manufacturing and logistics probably have the highest potential because they have complex multi-party relationships where products are moving from location to location. And so those have very proven use cases in the rest of the world built on blockchain. Tourism is a more interesting one. There's definitely a lot of use cases in tourism for things like procurement and infrastructure management, but the world of tourism it was probably the very first world to be digitally integrated. So airline seats, hotel rooms, those were actually all put into global reservation systems starting in the 1960s. And so probably compared to most other industries, a lot of other industries, tourism is already quite digital and quite global. I'm not sure that one will get quite as much revolution from blockchain as, say, manufacturing or logistics. From a global perspective, the number one challenge that we're going through is the transition that's taking place in the world from private blockchains towards public blockchains. So private blockchains were a quick and easy way to get started, and they enabled companies and governments to have a high level of privacy. But the problem is that basically involves building a very large, high-cost infrastructure, and companies have a lot of trouble persuading other business partners to get on their blockchain. In fact, it turns out the average private blockchain only has 1.5 participants, and that includes the company that started it. And the reason is everybody sort of wants to build their own. And the biggest leap that's taking place in the market now is this transition from companies that want to build their own network to companies and enterprises and governments that understand it's better to use privacy technology to transact on a public blockchain than build your own. So that's the biggest transition that's taking place. The biggest technical challenge is how to make all of that work with secure business logic, with KYC and AML, with verified business partners. But I think a lot of those problems are well on their way to being solved. And I feel very comfortable that as we make this transition, blockchain technology is going to really start to ramp up quite a bit over the next couple of years.